Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? It's the Journeyman Sports Podcast, episode 18 here today. Coming right back off the last recording of episode 17, trying to get these videos done, just trying to work through it, get everything back in rhythm. So, got a
Yes,
little bit
sir.
of a different type of episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about teams we believe have the darkest and the brightest futures in the NFL. So, these are just our opinions. We each picked a couple teams for both. So go ahead and get started with team that we kind of agree has potentially the darkest future in the NFL, the Las Vegas Raiders. So as we know, they have grossly underperformed this year. Had a lot of talent, a lot of hope going into this season that they were going to be maybe not a contender, but definitely a playoff contender. Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, and then you bring in guys like Devontae Adams, Chandler Jones, Max Crosby's still a dog. Like, you've got a lot of really solid players. You were in what we thought was going to be the toughest division in football. We were grossly wrong about that too. But the Raiders are 2-7 right now, so they are one of the worst teams in the league. They're not even going to have their first round picks for a while because of that,
Yeah.
all the trades that they've made. So that's a big part of it when I was looking at this was the lack of draft capital that they're going to have going forward to match how bad they've been. And
Yeah.
I saw a report. Josh McDaniels has been a big name in the media for part of blame for how bad the Raiders have been. But one thing I've seen is that he's going to have to stay their coach for this year and next year because they don't have the money to fire him and hire someone else, which it just gets worse for them, honestly. But they've shown solid flashes of being a good team. They've gotten out to a lot of good leads and they've blown all of them almost.
Yeah.
Seen it
Unfortunately.
in the Cardinals, the Jaguars. Did they? That was last year against the Chiefs, but they've had a lot of show this year to what they could be. But then, for whatever reason, they just don't. They just can't seem to finish games, and that's part of the struggle. Is you've got, for one, no draft capital. For two, you've got very little money, and you've got a lot of money wrapped up in very few people. You've got money wrapped
And
up. Yeah, it's just
um,
crazy.
there's a lot of things that I hate about this team, but honestly, what frustrates me the most is I constantly see the Raiders get these stars, but it's almost like when the Raiders get these stars, people forget that there's still 10 other people playing on the field with this player.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, you really gotta understand, like, the Raiders are very, they don't build together.
They don't build a team.
They don't build a team. They just grab players, and
Grab the
that's
big
what needs to
names.
change with that team. Is they got Chandler Jones, and they had Max Crosby, and people said, oh, this is going to be one of the best pass rushes in the league. Like these guys are going to eat, and not only has Chandler Jones underperformed, um, but I mean, Chandler Jones is not all to blame here. Max Crosby hasn't been what he was either.
Yeah.
And some players have down years, and that's just is what it is. I know Max Crosby will probably be a dog again, even later this season or next season. And I don't put it past Chandler Jones. I believe that he has, still some gas left in the tank. It's just you look at what the Raiders have done absolutely horribly, and it is draft
Oh,
secondary
yeah.
players.
I did,
They
and that's
cannot.
just not even secondary. Just keep the players on your team.
That
Keep the
they
first round
can't
players. Like,
they can't seem to draft a corner or safety that stays on the team. They
yeah.
they
And
can't they cannot hit on their corners. They have zero secondary. So obviously it's going to make it very hard for the pass rush to perform when they have no time to perform. They can't get to the quarterback if the quarterback is like, oh, that guy's open, that guy's open, that guy's open, that guy's open all day,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it hard. And then on the offensive side of things, Darren Waller can't stay on the field right now, which is bad.
Hunter
Devontae
Renfro's
Adams is
been
still Devontae Adams. I mean,
Hunter
Devontae
Renfro's
Adams
been
is
really disappointing to me this year, especially
Hunter
having him
Renfro
in
looks
fantasy. I
horrible.
thought he was going to be really good because I was like, all the defense's attention is going to be on Devontae or Darren Waller or whoever. And I mean, he just got hurt too, but even before, like he's been hurt on and off this year. He is wildly underperformed to what I thought he was going to be.
It's also very bad because they have Devontae, they have Hunter Renfro, they have Darren Waller. But like you look at the best teams have 5 or 6 guys down the wide receiver depth chart that can perform. Not maybe not, there's some teams that have their 2 stars, but then past those 2 stars, you still need to have depth because Hunter Renfro is hurt, Darren Waller's hurt. So who are you actually playing with? You're playing with
Mac
Fo-
Hollins.
Foster Moreau and Mac Hollins and their
Yeah.
places, and it's like you got to have. It's fine to have those guys at the top. That makes you look great on paper and everything, but you still got to have guys like, for example, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You still got to have guys,
A Zay Jones that they lost like
yeah,
in the
yeah,
offseason.
exactly. You got to have Zay Jones. You got to have, a guy like Mecole Hardman. You got to have guys like Darius Slayton.
Yeah, you've
Guys
got to
that
have those
no
under the
one's
radar
really
guys.
paying no one's really paying too much attention to, but when it comes down to it, if your top guy goes down or if your top guy needs a break, that guy can come in and still do, and maybe not the as good of a job, but
But they can
still a
perform.
good
Like
enough. Yeah,
you're not going to go
you can
from here to here. You're going to go from here
exactly.
to maybe here. Like
Exactly. And that's what the Raiders don't have. They don't have depth, and you're right. They have a lot of big money wrapped
tied
up
up into
in
very few players like
tied up in a few
Devontae, Chandler
players
Jones.
and players that aren't really earning that money either. I
Yeah.
mean,
And a
yeah,
lot
it's
of them
bad.
are older too, which like there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, like you're going to be paying Devontae Adams when he's 32, like $25 million a year. Which, not to say, like Devontae Adams has still been really good this year. He's been like one of the lone bright spots on that team. But I mean, when he's 32, do you really want to be paying him that much money? Like,
Well, also they're making not only that, but they continue to make stupid moves. Like, I mean, obviously, it's no secret that the reason why the Raiders are in such a bad situation right now is because of Mayock and Gruden. I
yeah,
mean, they just shit the bed on the draft every single year that they drafted. But like, I mean, you look at guys first round picks because you remember a few years ago, Raiders for the past or like they had 2 years in a row where the Raiders had 3 first round picks.
yeah,
2 years in a row. That's 6 first round picks.
you don't hear
Those
that.
first round picks were, I think it was Henry Ruggs, Alex Leatherwood, Cleveland Farrell, Damon Arnett, Josh Jacobs, and I don't know
Hobbs
who.
maybe or something. I thought it was a
Yeah,
corner
I
of
think
sort.
it was Hobbs or Mullen. It was Trayvon Mullen,
Yeah,
who's now on the Cardinals. But
and
um,
Josh Jacobs has been good too. He's been. I hope they
but
pay
those six
him.
guys, out
Yeah,
of those 6 guys, okay,
that's it.
you cut Leatherwood. Cleveland Farrell's a backup. You traded Trayvon Mullen for a 6 round draft pick to the Cardinals.
You cut Damon Arnett, right?
You cut Damon Arnett. You cut Henry Ruggs. So
Yeah,
that's you cut Leatherwood, Ruggs, and Arnett. That's 3 out of
half,
6.
half.
That's already half.
Yeah. And
Then
then
then Farrell's a backup. So that's might as well. And by the way, it has literally been reported that Cleveland Farrell was one of the last guys to make the roster, meaning
yeah,
a
I mean,
first round pick
from like two
barely
years
even
ago.
made your roster. Yeah,
And the
barely even
crazy
made your
part
roster.
is you see teams like Miami that when they've traded their first round picks, they've gotten Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and Bradley Chubb back in return. And not to
Yeah,
say that that should be like the expectation, but you've got to get some return on these.
there's
Like,
no way you've traded away or cut these players,
yeah, it's
and
just
you
crazy.
you you haven't been able to get a better corner or like something out of that. Like
A slight
it's
upgrade,
insane.
even.
But then with Farrell, so that's 4 out basically because Farrell's going to be gone next season. I literally doubt that he makes another NFL roster after he makes his, like after he's on this team. Maybe he makes another NFL roster as like a backup's backup,
Mm-hmm.
but Cleveland Farrell is not good.
Yeah.
And then what? So that leaves Jacobs and who?
Hobbs, who's been okay,
There
but
wasn't there one other one?
I don't know. But yeah, the
That's
Raiders are.
horrible.
Yeah, the
That is
Raiders
horrible.
are. To sum it
And then
up with the
they're letting go of Jacobs after this year. They didn't pick up his
probably,
5th-year
yeah,
option, so that's 5. That
yeah,
is five of your last 6 first-round draft picks are gone.
yeah. But to sum it up with the Raiders, no draft picks, no money, and all of your money's tied up within 5 to 6 players. So
And now the Raiders own their draft picks too. So it's or not or the Packers. The Packers own their draft picks
yeah,
for the next what they give up for Adams? They gave up a 2 firsts.
couple firsts and then some thirds or something. But we know the Packers will
Man,
probably do
bro.
the same freaking thing and just mess that
Yeah,
up
yeah.
too. But we'll talk about them a little bit later.
They're coming up.
Let's move on to a more positive note. Cade, your first team for the good future.
Yeah, my first team for a good future, I picked the Lions because I love every single move that the Lions have made since they traded Matthew Stafford. I really do. I love the Dan Campbell hire, number one. If you watch Hard Knocks this year, you saw Dan Campbell and his coaching staff there. You can tell that that is a top tier coaching staff. They may not have the team to prove that yet, but you can tell they really know what they're doing. They're really there for those guys. They're building a strong culture, which is something that is insanely hard to do, especially in a place like Detroit. But they are doing a very good job of doing that. Love Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's absolutely insane that they got him in the second round last year. He's
It was even later than that. It was like the 4th, wasn't it?
it was third or fourth. I don't know. I
It
thought it
was
was
later
second.
than it should have been.
Yeah, it was way later than it should have been because now he looks like an absolute monster.
Yeah,
So
he looks like a top
he,
20 receiver
he
easily.
really does. Like I think soon he will be top 10. I really do, just off of what he's shown and what he was showing in the beginning of this season. He was going absolutely insane, and then the reason why his production slowed down was he got hurt. But I mean, every single time he's on the field, he's making plays, he's catching touchdowns, he's making catches all over the place. He's insane. They have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in the backfield. Like both of those guys can. Jamal Williams, I was literally just watching an interview. It was Deuce Staley talking to the media today, but Deuce Staley was just literally talking about how Jamal Williams is like an insane leader in the locker
Yeah.
room.
I mean, you
Everyone
saw that
loves
on
him
Hard
there.
Knocks too.
Yeah, everyone loves him there. Like everyone, he was literally talking about how the coaching staff literally loves him. Like guys in the locker room are coming up and talking to him. So that's a great signing for them.
All
And
time
he's when he
all
has
time
played.
quote. He had an all
Yeah,
time
when
quote
he
in Hard Knocks. You're gonna
if
piss
you're
like a
gonna
puppy, stay on the porch.
yeah, bro, like literally. And the thing is, when he's played, like he's
He's
been
been
an
good.
absolute beast too. So the play has backed up, who he is as a person. DeAndre Swift has been mediocre. He hasn't, honestly. I think Jamal Williams has been the better back this year.
It's just injuries
Um,
with Swift. Like he's
yeah,
really good when
Swift
he
just can't
plays,
stay
but
healthy.
he only plays 9-10 games a year.
Yeah, and then Goff doesn't. I mean, Goff has surprised me because Goff doesn't look horrible. He honestly doesn't look as bad as I've
Yeah.
seen him look in the past. He's still Jared Goff, so he's still not good, but he's not bad. And that's literally all the Lions need him to be because the Lions aren't planning on having a future with Jared Goff in it. I guarantee you, as soon as his
And I don't
contract's up,
even
they'll be
blame them
happy.
for that. Like, because they're
And
gonna get another good pick.
Jared
This
Goff can
this year
blame
is the
them for
year to
that.
pick a quarterback.
Yeah.
There are hella quarterbacks out there.
I just wish one thing I wish that the Lions did was bring in a rookie quarterback as a backup, a guy
Yeah.
like Carson Strong. I'm still out here fighting for Carson Strong because if you look at Carson Strong's college tape, he has an absolute monster arm. I'm talking about 99 throw power on Madden type of arm, like insane arm. And then to put in the fact that his leg is super messed up, which by the way, if Carson Strong, if his leg wasn't messed up to the point where he might never be able to play football again, Carson Strong would have been like probably the second or third quarterback picked in this draft class. Just want to put that out there. It's just injury concerns with him. That's it. There's no talent questions there. But the reason he's not on an NFL roster right now is because his leg is so brutally messed up. But I just wish they added a guy like that. But I like what the Lions have done. I love their drafts. Jeff Okuda is finally looking like he's
Yeah.
panning this year. And like you saw guys like Malcolm Rodriguez and Hard Knocks, like guys like that, to where they
Aiden
got him in
Hutchinson
the.
too.
Yeah, I mean they
He
got
looks
Malcolm
good.
Rodriguez. They got Malcolm Rodriguez as a linebacker in the 6th round, and he's starting for them.
Yeah, and
Like,
not
but
just for a storyline. Like he's
yeah,
really
no,
good.
he's very very good, and they showed that in Hard Knocks, but you can also see it in live games. Like he's
And that
very he.
offensive line is underrated too. Like
Oh,
they've got some good players on the
bro,
line.
that offensive line to me might be that offensive line to me is top 3 in the league.
Yeah, I would
You
not
just
say
look
that's
at all the
inaccurate.
guys
Yeah.
they have on that. I mean, they have Ragnow, they have Decker, they have uh Sewell, they have who else? Who are their guards? I'm trying to think. Is it they might have Paradis there, I want to say.
Here, I'm trying to look it up real quick.
Because I know Ragnow, because Ragnow's like the best center in the league. Um, Sewell's their left tackle. Decker's their right tackle. I'm pretty sure still, unless Decker's guard now.
Trying to think. Let's see. Here, keep going. I'm trying to find this.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, I like that. I like their offensive line. I like their other receivers in the building too. Like they brought in DJ Chark. I think that's a great move. A lot of
Yeah.
people didn't like that. A lot of people didn't like the TJ Hawkinson move, but you also got to understand when you're a rebuilding team, a very good tight end is not really of use to you when he's one of the highest paid players on your team and he could go for draft capital and he's not really helping you right now and you're not really in a position to let him succeed. I think that's a great move to move Hawkinson and let him number one, you let him go succeed. Number two, you don't have to pay him, and number three, you get a draft pick back for him as well. So I think that was a good move on their part too. I did like that move. Their draft was great this year as well with Hutchinson and Rodriguez, and I liked their draft last year with Levi Onwuzurike. I thought he was a good pick last year. Just I don't know, man. I like their draft classes from the past 2 years. I like the culture that they're building over there. I like the direction that they're heading in. They're competitive in every single game. Their defense looks a lot better, and they're only going to keep getting better. And they have Rams draft picks from the Stafford trade still.
Yeah.
They
And
have a
the
lot
Rams
of
aren't
draft
good this
capital to
year
work with.
either.
Yeah,
Like they're gonna
they,
get probably a mid-round pick from the Rams at
they have
worst.
they have a lot of draft capital and a lot of money to
And
spend,
they've
which
they've done that all really well so far too. Because
yeah,
that was the
yeah,
one thing I was gonna say is like you can't really speak enough about the culture, but the culture they're building there, along with like how well they have drafted, like they have a certain type of guy that they look for, and I feel like they've hit on all of their draft picks,
they're
especially
they're
deep in the draft.
they're doing something that is so smart. They're taking the culture and like the mindset of the like where they are. They're taking
Yeah,
like the Michigan like roughneck like blue collar like we're
approach.
gonna get this shit done
Yeah.
approach to football, which you would have think that the Lions would have always
Well,
done that, but they
yeah.
haven't. And that's what Dan Campbell and this staff is bringing to Detroit as a whole. Like the GM there is doing good things too, but I also think like the main thing is they're building that culture, but they're also getting like the absolute perfect guys for that culture. So
And that's
they have a culture that they're setting in place, but they're also taking all of the right steps to keep that in place and further that culture from
yeah.
where they are right now, which I really like.
Yeah. So, yeah, I I think you hit it all on the head, but that culture is something you don't necessarily see all the time in the NFL. It's more of a thing you kind of think of when you talk about college football more so, but their culture is legit, and it's I think a couple of years from now you're looking at being a playoff contender just about every year. I think it's just about hitting on the quarterback when
Yeah.
the time is there. But
Either that
now,
or use the draft capital to go get one that you already know is good as well.
yeah,
But we've
exactly.
also seen how risky that can be with
The next
which
team we actually want to
honestly
talk about.
there's one more point that a move I think that would be great for them is Garoppolo. Like I think Garoppolo would really I think
Especially
Garoppolo
if they
could
don't
do
want
some
to
cool,
take a
good things with that
quarterback.
team.
If they don't want to take a quarterback in this upcoming draft, with Trey
Yeah,
Lance coming back, Jimmy G will be available for
yeah,
probably next to nothing, I would imagine. So
yeah.
next
And
team,
we see he can be a stopgap. So
oh yeah, 100%. But next team, we're gonna move on to Green Bay Packers. Talked about them a little bit in the last episode, but this is dark future team that you picked, Cade. So let's hear it. Let's hear it for the Packers.
there's we just gotta take a moment of silence, man. I mean, good lord, how did I don't even think I could mess a team up that bad if I tried. It's just it's such a discombobulated franchise. It's so they need an owner. Number one, let's talk about that. They need a an effing owner in Green Bay so bad. They cannot keep letting the public own the team. It's I get what it does and you know that it makes people happy and all those things, but at the end of the day, like you need an owner to function. You need one guy that has final say at the top to get things
Yeah.
done. And that's why Gutekunst is probably going to stay there for a long ass time because there's no one to really say, "Hey, this is wrong. We need to, fix this." Number two, no receivers, man. They paid the wrong guy. They should have paid Adams and let Rodgers go and given Love his chance. That would have worked out a lot better, I think. Um, their offensive line is bad. Their defense looks like they couldn't beat a Pop Warner team. Um, I mean, their corners suck. Their safeties are. I mean, other than Alexander, but I mean, even Alexander doesn't look good this season at all. Like if
Yeah.
you look at Jair Alexander, like against Stephon Diggs, he couldn't find
Well, and the other thing is too, they only
he
put
couldn't
him on
find
like
his
number
yard
two
line.
receivers. Like they only put him on number twos, I feel like, which you can't
Yeah,
really say he's the best in the league if he's gonna lock up every team's number two.
well, and I literally was watching the game between the Packers and the Bills, and bro, like I dead ass could not see why Jair Alexander is being called like a top corner
Yeah.
because Stephon Diggs is making him look the other way while he's going like he looked like he didn't even know how to play football. It was so bad. So the money is not only wrapped up in bad players, it's wrapped up in the wrong players too. Like
Yeah.
it's they're guys that used to be good or guys that are good. They may be good, but they're not good enough to win by themselves, and
Yeah.
that's the problem. They don't have money spread out. They don't have depth, and then they really just don't have that much talent to begin with as a whole. But somehow their money is all gone, so they have
Yeah.
no
And that's
talent, but all of their money is gone, and
and
so is
that's
all of the
yeah.
draft capital.
Well, they got some from the Raiders, but it's just like for me, they lost. I don't know which Smith it is. I think it's Zadarius. They lost him. He went to
Yeah,
Minnesota. But like,
they're paying him
I mean,
still.
and that dude's been a top 15, top 10 edge rusher this year. Like, I don't get it's weird because they
He's
trade away.
leading the NFL. He was leading the NFL in sacks 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's just like they're good players like Devontae. They don't pay. They do pay Aaron Rodgers, which sure, like I will give you the benefit of the doubt on that because he's a four-time MVP, whatever. But you've got to pay the defense. And you've seen it be a common thread throughout Rodgers' career of like they are the best when he has a top 10 defense. Like that was when they won the Super Bowl, whatever. But I mean, I think that's a big part of their struggles now is their offense isn't the same, but the real key for me is the defense isn't because you already
Also,
knew.
they're not willing to draft anyone that makes a difference. It's almost like they
Yeah.
draft backups. Like
Yeah.
the Quay Walker pick, like I said in the last episode, the Quay Walker pick makes absolutely no sense. They were perfectly fine at linebacker, and then they go and draft
Yeah.
a linebacker over a receiver.
What
Like
they
you could have
desperately
gotten
needed.
so many guys,
Yeah.
and they just looked the other
Because
way and said no. And
I
they
think,
could have drafted offensive line too. They could have drafted any. They could have drafted a corner for God's sakes. Like any of their needs, but they it's like they pick what they're good at picking.
yeah.
And
And
that's what pisses me off because you don't need any more linebackers. You don't need any. You don't need another quarterback. You don't need any more running backs. You need a fucking wide receiver and you need some goddamn line help.
yeah. Because I don't think, like, I think those receivers could be solid players down the line. But I also think forcing them to be starters right away, like, that's not what those receivers need either.
Romeo Dubes is a 4th-round draft pick. Okay, Romeo Dubes is good.
So is
Romeo
Christian
Dubes
Watson.
could
They're both good.
Romeo Dubes could turn into one of the best receivers to come out of that class in the long run. So could Christian Watson. But you need to give your players time to turn into that. You can't just be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we drafted you. Good luck. Figure it out. Hope you turn into something." That's
Especially
not.
with like Rodgers, because we know Rodgers isn't the best leader in the NFL. So like it's not like he's gonna add like the Tom Brady kind of element. Like I know you don't
He was
like
bad
Brady.
mouthing them in week 2. He was literally bad mouthing his rookie
Yeah.
receivers, saying they can't catch footballs
And
in week 2. It's like,
I
come
know
on,
you're
bro.
not a big time Brady fan, but I mean that's the difference between them to me is Tom Brady's ability to make, the Wes Welkers, the kind of guys like
Just
that. But
truly, true. That's the difference between best and greatest. That's what makes that difference because Aaron Rodgers may be the most talented arm that we've ever seen play in the NFL, but he's not the greatest because he doesn't carry leadership aspect, and he really doesn't carry that personable aspect to him at all. So it
yeah,
makes him hard to resonate with on every level, not just his teammates, but fans. Everyone feels some type of way about Aaron Rodgers because
he gives you a
he's
reason
very
to.
good.
Like,
He's insanely good, but he's
yeah,
just
he's
not
probably
ever
the
going to be the
most
guy that elevates the team around him.
he's in my opinion the most like gifted just pure thrower of the ball, but I think his inability, I should say, to really lead the team and make the players around him that much better is like one thing that will always haunt his career down the line. But yeah, Green Bay's going to be in an interesting spot, especially when Rodgers does retire, probably at the end of his contract that he just re-signed. It'll be interesting
Fire
to see.
fire Gutekunst and start trading away as many big pieces as you can and start the rebuild
Because
because
that's the
it's
thing. I
either
feel like they either need to try and trade to make their team legit or just blow it up. Like, and
they
that's,
need and I don't even think you can trade to make that team legit
I
anymore
don't think
because
you can either.
it's like you can trade away players, but the players that you're going to trade away are number one either going to be way too big of a cap penalty or
Yeah.
not pull enough of a return to even make it make
Warrant
sense to
it.
trade them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they're just in
What the
a bad
hell?
position.
Okay. Well, we're getting destroyed by Zoom
Yeah, I
again.
see it.
So we'll end this one with my team
The
for the
last team.
bright future, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I had to okay this with Cade before just so you guys know that I'm not being biased in this. I genuinely think that the Jaguars have proven this year that they do have a bright future. You have instances they compete with Philadelphia. Um, they smoke the Chargers, not just beat them, just flat out kill them. Last week they left 13 points on the board against Kansas City and they lost by 10. Like Trevor Lawrence, the past 2 games, probably played his best 2 back-to-back games of football. I think he's taken a nice step forward this year. I don't know about you. Talk about that here in a minute, but I really think he's taken a solid step forward this year. And I'm excited to see the culture is changing there. I think with Doug Peterson. And I think like we talked about with the Lions, that's really the biggest part of all this is building up that culture, especially after how bad last year was. Finding your footing again. Christian Kirk, I maybe a slight overpay, but I think next year, especially with the trade they made for Ridley, Kirk is going to be back in his natural position in the slot, which I think is a huge benefit for the team. And I think getting a true number one like Calvin Ridley is only going to help Trevor Lawrence that much more. But ETN has looked good. I really like what ETN brings to the team as a running option and a passing option as well.
My only question with that whole situation is like you have two good running backs, and I understand that you want ETN to receive them like the like higher percentage of carries to have him develop more, but the only move like a move that because I mean the Kirk signing is whatever at this point. It's
I
just
don't think it's been
it's
that bad. Like I feel like he's
I
top
don't
10 in
think
the
it's
league in
been
receiving.
bad.
He's got
I
his
don't think
career
it's
high in
bad.
touchdowns through 10 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a bad signing by any means. But it definitely is an overpay. Like
Yeah,
that's
I'll
wide
agree with you
receiver
on
one
that.
money for a receiver that's not a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
But but I mean, you look at other things that they've done. I didn't like how they traded Chenault either, but
Yeah, I thought
I
that
do
was interesting.
I'd much rather would have just rather seen them not sign Zay
Yeah,
Jones and then keep
that's
Chenault, but that was that's another like that's just one thing I would have changed. And then
mhm.
Robinson, bro, I really didn't understand the Robinson trade. I understood it for the Jets, of course, because Brees Hall went down, but and I know there was some weird stuff that went on between James Robinson and King Urban last season, but I don't understand the Robinson trade because if you can have
The
that
1-2
1-2
punch
punch
like
of
Dallas has.
thunder and lightning, why would you
Yeah.
not? It's
And
it's like
that's what I was wondering too, because I don't think they were gonna have to re-sign him, but I don't think he was gonna be wanting a terrible amount of money either. Like that
he's an
was
undrafted free agent, bro.
yeah,
He was an undrafted free agent, meaning you didn't have to give up anything. You didn't even have to waste a draft pick on him.
yeah. But
But
that is the one that's been my probably biggest gripe this year was I didn't quite understand that move. I feel like
that move
just
confuses
just
me.
doesn't make sense.
But on because we are talking about the bright future, like I loved the or not Trayvon, sorry, not Tracy, but Trayvon
Yeah.
Walker has been
He's been solid
amazing.
this year. He's getting a lot of pressures, like not
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
sacks, but when you
that's what I'm
look,
saying.
yeah,
And those are things that don't show up on the stat sheet
stat
but
sheet
help a football
exactly.
team. So
Yeah,
it's like
and him and
it's
Josh Allen 1-2 in the future. That's a deadly edge rush
it's going to
duo.
be deadly, especially when they figure out because one thing that they have not been able to figure out in Jacksonville since Saxonville is interior D line.
Yeah,
That
I
they
agree
really
with you.
need to figure out interior D line because if you look at the games that they do lose, it's either because their corners aren't playing well because their corners can play well. They don't
Well,
have three corners.
Tyson Campbell's having a breakout year.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Andre
I,
Cisco is pretty good too.
I think that I don't think that their corners are bad, but they can play bad sometimes.
Yeah,
And those are the games that they lose, but it's that and then they just get run up the middle on so much. Like they get
yeah.
pounded up the middle.
It's no
It's
reason
bad.
that Devin
It is
Lloyd has
bad.
all those tackles. Like, because that's another bright spot I think for our team is linebacker, especially with Devin Lloyd. I think Chad Muma's pretty good too, but I
I
really
had
like
Chad Muma in my. I'm just
yeah.
saying, man. Pre-draft, I was high on Chad Muma too, bro. I'm just saying, like
And
I just I'm not even saying that to brag. I just have to
no,
call it
I
out because
know
it's like I'm just saying, bro. Like
because
I see potential in these players, man. Like
yeah, because that's been the thing is like I feel like for the Jags, it's just like this year there have been some games that they've let slip. I just think from the inexperience. Like you talk about it the first week against Washington, like that was a game that you're controlling majority of the game, like up until the
yeah,
fourth quarter. And then when they played at the Colts, that was a game that they were winning, in my opinion, and they ended up losing it. Shaquille Griffin just got toasted. The Houston
yeah.
game, don't get how you lose that one. But then like the Kansas City game at Kansas City you're in, the Denver game in London, you're winning the
They're
whole
just they're
time.
just very confusing to me because it's like
It's like, why aren't you
they
better?
they,
Like,
they
just
well, it's just confusing to me because it's like they'll go out and beat the Bills and the Chiefs and the Packers and then turn around and lose to the Texans. It's like, what are you
it's
doing,
just
bro? Like,
because that's the thing is in terms of one, two, three, four, five. Every game, 6 of their 7 losses have been by 1 score or less. Like, and I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
that's the thing is like they just have to learn how to completely put the game together. And that was the thing I thought was big about that Raiders game 2
But
weeks ago
this is
was the
what would
comeback
help
win.
them.
I
But that's
know
what would
in
help
the long
them.
run it helps.
Having that running back, having that 1-2 punch, like
Yeah.
that's why I didn't get that move because it's like you had that 1-2 punch. That 1-2 punch would help you manage games so easily.
Yeah.
Because when you can
And
run the ball with two different guys and they do two different things and you know exactly what they can get done for you, it makes the whole game easier. But I don't know why they said, oh, we like Snoop Connor more apparently. So
yeah,
we'll
but
see.
I really like the culture that's getting built. I think the offense next year is going to take another really good step in the right direction, but I couldn't be more excited. Like, it's been frustrating at times this year, especially with the hot start they got off to. But I feel like, looking at it, when 6 of the 7 losses that you have are by 8 points or less, like it shows, especially against good teams too, like the Eagles, the Giants, Kansas City was by 10, but you're in that game on the road. Like, they're taking a lot of steps in the right direction, especially with Trevor Lawrence. I've been impressed with him this year. I think he's got to
I
get it
definitely
figured out.
agree.
I think he's got to get it figured out in the red zone. He's been a lot of his interceptions have been in that area, which isn't what you want to see. But I think compared to last year, especially, he looks leaps and bounds better. He just looks so much more confident to me, and that was
Yeah.
my biggest thing going into this season was he's got to look better and solidify
No,
himself.
I agree. As long as they can figure out, how to keep drafting well
Well,
and
yeah,
and hopefully make less dumb moves, and
yeah,
hopefully as they get better, they don't have to overpay as much as well. I think they'll
hmm
get better. But unfortunately, it is we are coming to an end here.
we're
We
gonna
do
get
have
this
to wrap
figured
it
out.
up. We are
I don't know what it is, but we're gonna get it
we
figured out.
we unfortunately are running short on time, but this has been week 18 of the
Episode
Journeyman.
18.
Or I'm sorry, I'm
Now
sorry.
you're
Yes,
good.
episode 18 of the Journeyman Sports Podcast. As always, please comment if you think that our opinions are right or wrong, or if you want to share your own. We love to hear that. It's been a pleasure talking with Garrett here. I'm glad that we kind of got this thing back up and rolling, and
We will
we
see you in
will
the
we will
next one.
see you for the next one. Yes, indeed.
All right.